Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnupad Purnamhamsa Pariprajrakacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Raj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhani Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Gangamai Ki Jai Jamanamai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Gaur. Well, I guess I'll introduce things. We're March 16th, 2023 in Vrindavan, a day earlier in New York. And we're reading from from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 15. And the last verse discussed was 25. I missed all but a few minutes of that class, and perhaps we'll do some review of that verse and then move forward. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatirmirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Tadhati Shapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagujatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Pradishana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Sapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Kori Priye Vanshako Vitarubhyascha Kripasindho Pyevacha Tatita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yacha Vrajantya Nimisham Rishabhanu Vritya Ure Yama Yupari Nas Priyaniya Shila Vartur Mitas Suyashasha Katananu Raga Vaiklavya Bhashpa Kalaya Pulaki Pitanga. The persons whose bodily features change in ecstasy and who breathe heavily and perspire through hearing the glories of the Lord are promoted to the kingdom of God, even though they do not care for meditation and other austerities. The kingdom of God is above the material universes, and it is desired by Brahma and other demigods. So I understand that you read the purport in the last class and discussed, had some discussion. In our little chat before this class began, there was the suggestion that we might go deeper into the purport. So if you'd like to do that, maybe you could suggest those who are here what we might want to discuss further. You might want to raise some points, some observations, some questions, some thoughts, and I leave it to you.
There was at the beginning of the discussion, we were considering how it is that Brahma, the topmost living being in the universe, would want to take birth as a human being on this Earth planet in order to obtain the opportunities of advancing in Krishna consciousness, and that led to some discussion. That might be worth going into a little bit more, Gurudev.
Yeah, that we find that also elsewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam. Maybe it's in 5th canto or someplace else, where the demigods pray that if we have any, at the end of our time as demigods, if we have any pious activities left, then may we take birth on the Earth planet. What I remember hearing discussed long back was that we have the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems. The lower planetary systems are not very good for developing Krishna consciousness because there's so much suffering there that one is always, besieged by miseries. And one's engagement essentially is to work off the results of one's sinful activities. The more one suffers in the lower planets, the more one's sufferings are relieved. And in the upper planets, there's too much enjoyment. The Muyanti Yatsura, the demigods become bewildered because of sense gratification. They have such a high standard of sense enjoyment that they sometimes tend to forget the personality of Godhead. And their position also is unsteady. They're working off the results of their pious activities. And the more they enjoy, the more they're diminishing their pious credits. And so, Shine Punya Marcha Lokam Vishanti, when their pious credits are exhausted, they return to Earth. So Earth is considered the most favorable place because here enjoyment and suffering are nicely mixed. One can try to enjoy, but one will always suffer. But still the opportunity is there for spiritual inquiry and spiritual progress. So the demigods glorify the earth as being the most suitable place Yes, Tulsi Priya.
Thank you, Maharaj. I had a question. I was wondering about this, the desirable qualities. And I think it's mentioned how the demigods have, it's my place, sorry. It seems like I understand that you alluded to the demigods running out of their pious credits. You know, they did something to deserve their position. But as demigods, they're enjoying. And when we hear about the demigods, at least what sticks in my mind more is various things that demigods have done that aren't so demigodly, you know, like Indra wanting to fight with Krishna, or Indra sending the Samvartika clouds, or Lord Brahma wanting to trick Krishna, things like that. And I understand, yes, that they obviously have accrued some incredible pious credits to be in their position, but I don't recall hearing so much about them exhibiting those qualities. You hear about them when they sort of deviate them more. And I was just wondering, you know, it seems like what I hear about the demigods is very different. Well, not very different, but somewhat different from what I hear about, let's say, an exalted Vaishnava, you know, human being who's, you know, just a human being, but they have these incredible Vaishnava qualities. They seem a bit different from a demigod. I was wondering if you could maybe help me understand that better.
Well, some thoughts about that. Why we mainly hear about the demigods when they mess up, when they commit some offense or so on. And sometimes, but when we hear about the Vaishnavas, their sort of their unadulterated glories are presented. One thing, of course, is that the Bhagavatam is standing in contrast to the Vedas. Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadanti vipaschita. Veda vadarata partadanya dastiti. Vadana kamatmana svarga prada. Janmaishvarya pada kriya vishesha bahulam. Bhogaisharya katim prati. The Vedas are full of pushpitam vacham, flowery words, glorifying life in heaven. Yamimam pushpitam vacham, kamatmana svarga pada. Those who want to go to Svarga can study the Vedas and hear about all the glories of the life in heaven. And this is there in other religious traditions also. They have some idea of a heaven that you can go to after this life, and you enjoy some sort of heavenly existence, happy life. And usually we don't hear that it's a life of service. It's a life where you're rewarded for your piety. And that, in any case, that's what we get in the Vedas. So the avipaschita, the inexperienced followers of the Vedic way, or those who are childish, think that this is it, that the purpose of the Vedas is to be promoted to heaven. And the Bhagavatam, in contrast, wants to give the essential message of the Vedas. So Dharma Prochita Koitavotra Parama Nirmatsaranam Satam. It wants to direct us away from the flowery promises of heavenly enjoyment and direct us to pure devotional service. That's the special purpose of the Bhagavatam, and that's Bhagavad Dharma, the life of pure devotional service to Krishna, which surpasses everything down in the material world in all three planetary systems. So in the Vedas, we can hear about Indra and his enjoyments and his power and all of that. But the Bhagavatam sort of deprecates that. So in the Vedas, you'll get, for example, these great sacrifices to Indra, the benefits of sacrifices to Indra, and the importance of sacrifices to Indra, and the exalted glories of Indra. And in the Bhagavatam, you get Krishna saying, "Who's Indra? Forget it. Worship Govardhan. Let's just worship Govardhan Hill. Who's this Indra? What can he do for us? Well, he has to give the results anyway." So it's almost turned upside down. The offerings meant for the great Lord Indra are what's confiscated. They're redirected, redeployed in the service of Govardhan Hill and the cows. So this is Krishna turning the attention of his devotees away from the heavenly planets, away from the glorious demigods, and turning their love and service toward him. So it's in this context that we hear, when we hear about the demigods, we often hear about how they mess up. Of course, we do hear about Lord Brahma performing austerities. We do hear about the demigods worshiping Krishna. We do hear about them approaching the Lord and requesting him to appear. We do hear their prayers in the 10th canto, even when Krishna is within the womb of Devaki, glorifying the Lord. So it's not that the demigods are just, that they're consistently bashed. We hear about their glories in relationship to the Lord. Yes, when Krishna comes to establishes things at Dwarka, the demigods give various gifts to the Lord and so on. So these things are found, but the emphasis is on the eternal glories of devotional service. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine. As you were speaking, I also found the paragraph where they were talking about the quality of the demigods, and Prabhupada specifies in the material world, the qualities of the demigods are highly appreciated. And I was just thinking it's a subtle thing, you know. We say in broad terms that the demigods are they're enjoying more, so it's not as conducive to pure devotional service. And here it's the right balance, but it's like on Earth in the middle planetary system, it's the right balance. But it's like, yeah, if you're enjoying too much, it's hard to, you know, it's like that's your reward for being a devotee, and but not a completely successful devotee. So you have to come back to Earth to if you're not successful, you take birth again in the material world as a human being to try to be a devotee, because that's your best shot. I was just thinking it's yeah, they're getting their reward for their devotional service, but it's not, they haven't gone all the way yet, at least as far, that's what I'm understanding.
Bhogashaya prasaktanam daya parhita chetasam yavasayatmika buddhi samadha vidhiyate. One becomes attracted to the heavenly enjoyments, bhogashaya gatim prati. But if one is too much attracted to enjoyment and opulence, then one doesn't develop the resolute determination for pure devotional service. So,
sorry.
yes.
I was just thinking, it's like when a rich man has sons, if they're too shielded from the realities of life, they don't realize what they have. And if they lose it somehow, then they realize, oh, I had it good, and they improve themselves. It just seems like the demigods, they're shielded from the suffering of the material world, so they don't realize it, or I don't want to say realize it, but they don't experience as fully as a human being does how bad the material world is.
That's, yeah, stated.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Panchatattva's found that verse in 5th canto, Etadeva hi deva gayanti, aho ami sham vimakari shobhanam, prasanna esham sviduta swayam harihi, yarjanma labdham rishuparadajire, mukunda sevao vaikam sprihahina. Since the human form of life is the sublime position for spiritual realization, all the demigods in heaven speak in this way. How wonderful it is for these human beings to have been born in the land of Bharatvarsh. They must have executed pious acts of austerity in the past, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself must have been pleased with them. Otherwise, how could they engage in devotional service in so many ways? We demigods can only aspire to achieve human births in Bharatvarsha, to execute devotional service. But these human beings are already engaged there. So that's, yes, thank you for that. It's also perhaps significant that the demigods are appreciative of the service rendered on earth. They have, after all, they're demigods, they have good qualities. So they, rather than just be envious or scoff at the insignificant efforts of the inhabitants of Bharatvarsha, they appreciate that these people in Bharatvarsha can serve in so many ways. We may be demigods, but see how fortunate their position is. We find that also in the description of Vaikuntha. The devotees appreciate the other devotees, the beautiful, flowering, fragrant plants appreciate the glories of Tulsi Devi. The singing birds stop singing to hear the king of bees humming the glories of the Lord. So they're appreciative. Nirmatsuro, nirmatsuranam satam, nirmatsuro pujito. They're not envious. So this is a godly quality. From Saturday class, Maharaj said something like, Mayavad leads to materialism. Since the demigod worshippers are also materialists, this is Praveen, are they also the product of Mayavad impersonalism? We find a mixture of these two things, materialism and impersonalism, in demigod worship. They worship Ganesh or Surya or Indra, whoever they're worshiping, Durga, for sense gratification. So they're materialists. And at the same time, they take it that doesn't really matter which devata you worship, because in the end, they all represent the same truth, the same impersonal absolute. So we find in the demigod worship this mixture of materialism and impersonalism. In both approaches, we deny that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and the supreme owner of everything. We want to enjoy, and that's our focus. And the absolute truth is ultimately impersonal anyway. So there's no, Okay. Ananta Shesha says, pious activities and devotional service are rewarded differently, as I understand. Oh, absolutely. Pious activities give you temporary material benefits. Good birth, good beauty, Janmaisharya, opulence, education. These are all pious credits, birth in a good family, and so on. But the result of devotional service is more devotional service, that one attains the perfection of life by going back to Godhead and being engaged in the eternal service of the Lord. That's entirely different from paltry, temporary benefits. Intelligent person isn't after these temporary boons. He wants to be engaged in the service of Krishna. Saraswati says, it seems the demigods think humans are in a better position, and the humans feel the demigods are in the better position. Everyone is thinking the grass is greener on the other side, but reality is all conditioned souls are condemned and have to find a way to surrender to Krishna, regardless of what cards life has dealt. However, some people say that this is a luxury for those who have the basic necessities of life as they are toiling to survive. Surrendering to Krishna, I'm not quite sure what the luxury is. Surrendering to Krishna is not a luxury. It's a necessity, whether one is in the higher position or the lower position. The one thing is the devotees are not in this greener position. They're not interested in the heavenly planets. Varga Varga Narikeshva Piduliyartha Darshana. They see heaven or hell, anything, to be all bad, dry stool, wet stool. They're not interested in the grass, however green, of the material world. I'm not quite sure what this argument about the luxury for those who have the necessities, but there is that sense that there's a verse in Ecclesiastes where the commentators talk about this. That's sort of discussing philosophical ideas as a luxury reserved for those who are not sweating it out, just trying to survive. And there's some truth to that. Those who are busy just slugging it out or slogging it out don't have what's the word? Are not inclined to inquire about the absolute truth. You find slogans, their slogans, roti is God, or that their attention is on putting food on the table, getting something to eat, and talking about philosophy and so on is a luxury that's beyond them. That thought is there. On the other hand, we see practically that, especially in India, the pious persons, even though they may be very poor, take an interest in hearing the glories of the Lord, serving the Lord. It's not that they think, oh, this is for the privileged people. This is, no, they also, or even more, we find that those who are poor may be more inclined to hear about devotional service or engage in devotional service because they're not bewildered by sense gratification. They've been beaten up enough, or they're just fortunate. Poor, but from one point of view, that poverty is their advantage. They're not so opulent that they forget the real purpose of life. You take a place like America where there's so much opulence, so much sense gratification, and it's a less fortunate place than places that are more, shall we say, down to earth, less intoxicated by material achievements. Or it's even, you can say, a less fortunate place than America was a few hundred years earlier, where people had more, where people were more willing to acknowledge the supremacy of God and their dependence on God. Now, why do we need God? We have factories, we have enterprises. So, Bhogaischarya, that wealth can be intoxicating. There's another verse posted by Praveen. Him Dushkarar Nakatubis Tapo Retire Tanadi Virva Tujayena Palguna Nayatra Narayana Pada Pankaja Smriti Pramushtati Shayendriyo Savat. Demigods say, after performing the very difficult tasks of executing Vedic ritualistic sacrifices, undergoing austerities, observing vows, and giving charity, we've achieved this position as inhabitants of the heavenly planets. But what is the value of this achievement? Here, we are certainly very engaged in material sense gratification, and therefore we can hardly remember the lotus feet of Lord Narayan. Indeed, because of our excessive sense gratification, we've almost forgotten his lotus feet. So this is those would be assessed first world problems. Okay, something else?
Maharaj, I remember reading a long time back that amongst charitable giving, the people who give the most in this country anyways are the poorest people relative to their income.
I don't remember that it's the poorest people, but yes, the rich give less as a what's the word? As a percentage of their of their assets. And the rich tend to give for things like libraries, opera houses, and so on, whereas the people who have less money are more inclined to give for human welfare activities.
And another interesting fact is that people were giving more money in religious charity during the Great Depression than they do now.
Just see. So they're depressed in another way now. Something else? Other topics from this verse? The 26 qualities of the devotee are mentioned or discussed in the verse, in the purport. That comes from Madhya Lila, chapter 22, starting with text 78. Kripalu Akritadroha Sachasar Sam Hidosha Vadanya Ridu Shuchi Akinchan Sarvopa Karaka Shanta Krishnaika Sharam Akama Aniha Stira Vijita Sadguru Mitabhuk Apramata Manada Amani Amkir Karuna Maitra Kabi Daksha Mauni. The 26 qualities of a devotee are described here, and and that's followed up with quotations from Bhagavatam about or actually preceded by discussion of how the Vaishnava develops all of the good qualities. Among the qualities I'm impressed by apramatta. Apramatta pramatteshu, somewhere in Bhagavad Gita. Apramatta means not crazy, or probably translates it as sane, but apramatta means sane, not crazy. We used to chuckle about that when we would read the 26 qualities of a devotee. Now I take that very seriously. It's quite important. Anything else on that? Okay. And then there was an extensive discussion on the offenses against the holy name of the Lord, which of course is a crucial subject matter for us. We're asked in initiation basically to do two things: to follow 4 regulative principles and to chant at least 16 rounds a day of the Hare Krishna mantra, avoiding 10 offenses, so that for the chanting to be most effective, this avoidance of 10 offenses is crucial. We have to aspire or practice that, avoiding 10 offenses. There's a comment from Guru Das: politicians take advantage of the poor, giving them donations. They like to brag. Over 3 million people gave an average of $7 per family. And that shows my acceptance among the rank and file, something like that. Yeah, okay. Everyone tries to take advantage of everyone else's material. Something else? Should we go on to the next verse?
Yes, Gurudev, please.
Tad Vishvaguruvadi Kritam Bhuvanai Kavanyam Divyam Vichitra Vibhudhagriya Vimana Shochihi Apu Param Udamapurvam Upecha Yaga Upecha Yoga Maya Balena Muniyastadato Vikuntam. Thus, the great sages Shanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumar, upon reaching the above-mentioned Vaikuntha in the spiritual world, by dint of their mystic yoga performance, perceived unprecedented happiness. They found that the spiritual sky was illuminated by highly decorated airplanes, piloted by the best devotees of Vaikuntha, and was predominated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is one without a second. He is above everyone. No one is equal to him, nor is anyone greater than him. Therefore, he is described here as Vishvaguru. He is the prime living entity of the entire material and spiritual creation, and is Bhuvanaika Vandyam, the only worshipable personality in the three worlds. The airplanes in the spiritual sky are self-illuminated and are piloted by great devotees of the Lord. In other words, in the Vaikuntha planets, there is no scarcity of the things which are available in the material world. They're available, but they're more valuable because they're spiritual and therefore eternal and blissful. The sages felt an unprecedented happiness because Vaikuntha was not predominated by an ordinary man, an ordinary politician, as mentioned by Guru Das. The Vaikuntha planets are predominated by expansions of Krishna, who are differently named as Madhusudana, Madhava, Narayan, Pradumna, etc. These transcendental planets are worshipable because the personality of Godhead personally rules them. It is said here that the sages reached the transcendental spiritual sky by dint of their mystic power. That is the perfection of the yoga system. The breathing exercises and disciplines to keep health in proper order are not the ultimate goals of yoga perfection. The yoga system, as generally understood, is Ashtanga Yoga, or Siddhi, eightfold perfection in yoga. By dint of perfection in yoga, one can become lighter than the lightest and heavier than the heaviest. One can go wherever he likes and can achieve opulences as he likes. There are 8 such perfections. The rishis, the 4 Kumaras, reached Vaikuntha by becoming lighter than the lightest, and thus passing over the space of the material world. Modern mechanical space vehicles are unsuccessful because they cannot go to the highest region of this material creation, and they certainly cannot enter the spiritual sky. But by perfection of the yoga system, one not only can travel through material space, but can surpass material space and enter the spiritual sky. We learn this fact also from an incident concerning Durvasa Muni and Maharaj Ambarish. It is understood that in 1 year, Durvasa Muni traveled everywhere and went into the spiritual sky to meet the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. Someplace in these verses, the Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has commented that sages like Durvasa and other figures are sometimes allowed to enter Vaikuntha by Krishna's arrangement. All right, you can go, but they can't stay. They can't stay. They can just get a brief entrance and then they have to leave. So Durvasa, as a great yogi, could even go to Vaikuntha. By present standards, scientists calculate that if one could travel at the speed of light, it would take 40,000 years to reach the highest planet of this material world. But the yoga system can carry one without limitation or difficulty. The word yogamaya is used in this verse. Yogamaya balena vikuntam. The transcendental happiness exhibited in the spiritual world and all other spiritual manifestations there are made possible by the influence of Yogamaya, the internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that it was by Yogamaya that the sages were able to reach Vaikuntha. By their own yogic powers, they wouldn't have been able to do it, but by the grace of Yogamaya, it became possible. Especially when we come to the 10th canto, we'll find so many enjoyments or pastimes of the spiritual world in which Yogamaya makes all the arrangements for Krishna's pleasure, particularly here in Vrindavan. Any questions, comments? Oh, there's something, let's see. There's something in the chat box. No, there's not. Okay.
Maharaj?
Yes.
So I'm trying to recollect a little better. The yoga system was once practiced as a method of self-realization, but it's no longer possible. Prabhupada says it's impossible, it's too difficult. So this realization only gets you as far as like Paramatma realization, or it's not really devotional service, or was it a kind of devotional service when it was?
We see that Dhruva Maharaj practiced meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kriteya Jayadvaita Vishnu. The perfection of the mystic yoga system is finally to be engaged in the service of the Lord. So that happened, we saw with Dhruva Maharaj, for example, that he saw the personality of Godhead within his heart, but he wanted to serve. He came to that point of devotional service to the Lord. Of that, Atmaramas Chamuniya, the Munis who are practicing the yoga system, they get the opportunity. The thoughts got lost. Yeah, the yogis who are practicing the yoga system can still be attracted by the devotional service of the Lord. Krishna is all attractive. So he can attract the Paramatmavadis. He can attract the Brahmavadis. He can attract everyone. There's two comments here. Saraswati, the perfect yogis mentioned here attained perfection in the Satya Yuga. In Kali Yuga, this is not possible as the current yogis are interested in bodily gymnastics or health. So for this age, chanting the Mahamantra is the only way, yes. Damodar Priya, if they got the heavenly planets, why couldn't they stay? Because you get to go to the heavenly planets by punya, by pious credit. So according to your pious credit, you can stay for some time, as long as your credit lasts. But that credit is not unlimited. The heavenly planets themselves aren't eternal. No one can stay there eternally. The planets themselves are ultimately destroyed. But before they're destroyed, one's pious credit runs out. I think in terms usually of vacations. You know, the person's working hard for most of the year, and then he can take a few weeks off and go to Hawaii or go to the Bahamas or go to the Côte d'Azur or go someplace and live in a five-star hotel with all what would you say, entertainment and eating and food prepared by great chefs and all of that. But every day that he's enjoying there, along with his family, he's spending money. He's spending money. He's spending for the plane ticket, and he's spending for the hotel charges. Then he's spending on the restaurant. He's spending on entertainment. He's spending. So then, after some time, that's it. The money runs out. He doesn't have an unlimited budget for staying in the Honolulu Hilton or whatever it is. There are higher hotels than that. He doesn't have it. And not only that, but while he's enjoying, he's not making anything. So then he has to go back to work. All right, 2 weeks vacation, 1 week vacation, whatever it is. Now he has to go back to work. He can't just stay unlimitedly. Why not? Here I am in Honolulu on the beach. Why not just stay here? No, I can't. How can I stay? My money runs out and I have to leave. So by pious credit, punya, one can go to the heavenly planets, but punyakshine marchilokam nishanti. Every day that one is there in the heavenly planets, one is using up pious credits by enjoyment. And therefore, when they're exhausted, one has to come back down. That may be after thousands of years by human calculation, but still one has to come back down. Gata gatam kama kama labhante. One comes and goes, seeking satisfaction, but there's no satisfaction until one goes back to God. Being paraphrases from Shivaram Maharaj's book. Lord Narayana says to Durvasa, you could enter my kingdom because of the recommendation of my pure devotee, Lord Shiva. Otherwise, no offender can enter my kingdom. Yes, and then do the demigods experience death in any way similar to you? They have to die. And they're afraid of death. That we hear. In Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Indra talks about all these things. He's glorified by Narad Muni for drinking the nectar of immortality and so on, being beyond fear and all of that. And Indra says, no, I'm always afraid of the demons, I'm afraid of losing my post, I'm afraid of death. So the demigods also have to die. It may be die this way or die that way, but they have to die. They have to transfer one body to the next. I'm just wondering how they experience death. Do they wane and suffer? Or do they? I don't know. I have no information about how the demigods experience death. Panchatattva says, I've heard that when one's time is up in the heavenly planets, one's garland fades. Don't know about the veracity of that, but what a signal. Yes, Meena.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. the question came up about the pious credits. They run out, but the spiritual credits, Krishna reassures in Bhagavad Gita that whatever one does is never lost. So it's two different things.
Yes. The spiritual credit is never diminished. That's eternal. And material credit is always diminished and finally lost. Yes. All right, we've reached the end of our hour. Shall we have a little more kirtan?
Does anyone out there want to lead the kirtan?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Gurudev. Gaur Premanandi Hari Bol.
Jai Om Vishnuvad Punamansa Paripradrakacharya Stotra Sadashri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Raj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kundradha Kundgiri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navdeep Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Gangamai Ki Jai Gangamai Ki Jai Jai Jamunamai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare
Go
Krishna.
Day Hari.
Hari Bol.
Thank you, Gurudev. I wanted to mention that we have a guest, Ellen. You can see her sitting with Meena. She came to our Friday night bhajan program. She's just very recently met the devotees, and at our Friday night bhajan program, she led her first Hare Krishna Kirtan.
Hari Bol.
And she's, yes, and yes.
If I knew
welcome.
that she could have
I
led
got distracted by your message, but yes, thank you very much for taking part, and welcome. Hare Krishna.
Oh, I sent you a message. I do Reiki. It's a healing energy. I don't know if
I
you're
sent a message. I can use all the good healing energy you'd like to send.
okay. Yeah. Part of the deal is I'm supposed to get your permission first, and I'd like to send you healing energy because I noticed you had a cough, and so
People would ask permission. You know, they always want to take your photo. They want this, that, and no one asks permission. It's just like we all have a right. So thank you for asking, and sure, send it along.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
That's Prabhu. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Maharaj. Hare
Thank you.
Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Shraddha. Chaya. And
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna. All right. Hare Krishna to all.
Hare Krishna. So tomorrow, Chaitanya Charitamrita class, same time, same station.
Mhm.
Very good.
Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.
Hi.
Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hi.
His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj Ki Jai.
Hi.
Samaveta. Jai.
Hi.
Jai.
Or Premanande.
Hari Bol.